Everybody, so we are going live again today for another interview here live on Instagram. So I'm just waiting for my friend Marvin to come in and then we're going to get going. So yeah, thank you everybody for joining us today. Stay tuned in for some amazing tips and tricks for you to become the very best version of yourself and to create the life of your dreams. So just waiting now for my friend Marvin to come in and we're going to get going. But yeah, thank you everybody for joining us already. I can see a few faces coming in. Yeah, just waiting for my friend here and then we're going to get going for today's live interview here. So yeah, I can't wait for this one. It's going to be really, really packed full of wisdom and knowledge. So just keep tuned in, guys, and yeah, we're going to have a great time here interviewing Marvin today. Here he comes, here he is. So we're just going to invite him up. Let's see what we can do. How do I do this? Here we Here we go. Yes, Marv.
Good, my man. You good?
Yes, my friend. How are you?
Very good, mate. Very good. Great to finally be speaking to you, actually.
Yes, man. Like, it's been a long time coming, right, Marv?
Very, very, very long time. Very. I remember. I think we've been planning this for like I don't know. It's just lots of messages back and forward. Oh yeah, we should definitely catch up. We should definitely catch up. So yeah, it's good to jump on a live with you. I don't do many lives actually. It's normally
Yeah.
Zooms and stuff. So yeah, I'm excited to be here today.
No, me too, my friend. This has been literally like 2 years in the making, I think.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely that long.
so yeah, no, honestly, I really can't wait to share some of your journey and some of your words of wisdom with the audience here today, my friend. So,
Yeah.
Marvin, let's just jump straight in, my friend. So, what I want to know about is a little bit about you, who you are, what you do, what life looked like growing up, specifically, say, in your 20s and 30s. What were some of the challenges along the way that you had to face and overcome? And what did you have to do in order to get you from, say, where you once were to where you currently are today, my friend?
Wow, there's like sort of quadruple questions all in one. To be honest with you, it's funny when I think of where I've come to and where I started and all of that kind of stuff. Um, it's been a very interesting journey, really, and I don't necessarily think that the transition periods or the evolution points were necessarily around the sort of 20s to 30s. I think once I got to sort of like 30s, I kind of knew I'd had a rough enough journey by that point to know, right, okay, this is what I need to do. This is how much effort I need to put in to get what I mean. This is the formula that works for me. And all of those things, really. Do you know what I mean? Because I wasn't, born with a silver spoon in my mouth or anything like that. Do you know what I mean? I grew up in less desirable area. I always say to people, I was born in Manchester in a place called Wivenshaw. For those listening in who know Manchester, um, at one time it was the biggest sort of council estate in Europe, and I just moved from crap area to crap area, really, I suppose, to a certain degree. But I wouldn't necessarily say that was the end of the world to me, because when you're in that situation, you don't really feel like it's the worst thing in the world. You have your friends around you. Do you know what I mean? Your parents do a good job. My mom worked massively hard to get to provide for us, and she was a nurse, so she'd do double shifts, and she dropped me off at my grandma's. So I spent a lot of time at my grandma's house. I have amazing memories of her when she was alive. So you've got all of this amazing kind of uh, experience and influence, and um, it's only when you try and compare it to other people's stories that you realize, oh, actually, yeah, okay, well, they had more money, or they had a different experience to me. At the time, it was amazing. I enjoyed my childhood massively, regardless of the hardships. And I think, there are definitely lessons in there that would have helped me moving forward, and have absolutely contributed towards who I am sort of today. Do you know what I mean? And I think some of those early lessons, that's why I'm saying I'd go further back than sort of 20 or 30. Some of those early lessons made me focus more than maybe I would have if I hadn't been through those experiences. Do you get what I mean? And made me put in the effort I needed in order to get the promotions, or in order to, you know, I've run design agencies in London. I've been involved in huge multi-million pound deals. I've worked with some amazing clients, and I think, you know, within life we go through these periods of evolution that prepare us for those things. Do you get what I mean? And it's only when we kind of do ourselves out of those experiences, and it is do ourselves, because we choose whether or not we are going to go for certain things, and we choose whether or not we're going to put in a certain amount of effort. So really, we're doing ourselves out of the future experiences, or the future successes that we aren't aware of yet, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I had a interesting childhood, and do you know what I mean? It's got me to where I am today.
Amazing, my friend, and thank you again for sharing that with us. I hear you say at the start, my friend, that you said like you sort of went from shit area to shit area, but you know, like in life, we take us wherever we go. We take us, and I find like quite a lot of people in their life, especially people that I connect with online here, they think like because everything is seemed to be going wrong in their own head, and like everything around them is going wrong, that they can just change, say, area. They can change their surroundings, as in like go to somewhere else. But what I also find is like you take you wherever you go. So like you could potentially be in, say, shit area and move to another, or even better area, a good area in your life. But if you haven't upgraded your mindset or changed who you are as a person, you're going to take you wherever you go. So what are your opinions on maybe, say, people with, say, potentially bad surroundings or negative surroundings, or they want to make a change in their life? What would you say someone should do, or should look at doing to make those steps to make a change in their life, you know?
That's a great question, actually. I think, you know, you hear this a lot, don't you? You hear people talk about, oh, you know, you have to change the circle of people that are around you. You have to change your environment and so on. And it's all true. And I think that, you know, you can never necessarily just focus on one thing. I think you have to cultivate that environment to win. Do you get what I mean? Like, if you think of anyone, and this is what I really encourage people to do, because I think sometimes, you know, there's a saying, you're stuck inside the bottle, you can't read the label. And I think that's so that's so true for many of us. When we're in a situation, we can't think outside the box, or we need someone else who's looking in. I mean, how many times have we been in those situations where we find it easier to help a friend out with their problem than, you know, fix our own sort of shit? Do you know what I mean? So I think it's massively important to wherever you can, and this is why I love to speak about self-awareness and all of those things. You know, step outside yourself and actually think, right, what environment do I need to, first and foremost, what do I want? Foremost, what do I want? Do you know what I mean? What is it I want to achieve? What does great look like for me? What is the vision that I'm actually running towards? But then also, how can I create this environment to win? How can I create this environment to actually get to that point, and not necessarily miss out all the steps in between, but take into consideration what the steps are before I get to that point, and how can I create the environment to get to the next step? Do you know what I mean? So what friends do I need to have around me? You know, and if you bump into someone that actually would be useful a few steps along, then fantastic. But first and foremost, let's figure out to get to that next milestone. You know, the people around you, the you know, the diet that you currently have, the amount, for me, a big one. I talk a lot about this because I always want to be transparent and open. I'm not perfect. Sleep has been a mass. I feel like sleep has been one of my biggest opponents. Do you know what mean, throughout my whole life, because you just constantly think, oh well, yeah, I can. It's all right. I can catch up on sleep at a late stage. And in the last few years, I've realised that no, sleep has definitely won a few rounds, and I need to get back on top in order to, win the match, because it's very, very easy to buy into this narrative that's out there that sleep is for the weak and you've just got to keep going and going and going. You have to rest. Do you know what I mean? You have to. So I think, going back to what I was saying, cultivating that environment to win, sleep, diet, friends, your surroundings. Do you know what I mean? I'm doing a big sort of tidy up in the office at the moment, because I've been. It's been a bit of a hectic sort of time for me, so I'm taking the opportunity to sort of get everything back into the position it should be, because that affects your mindset as well. It's all of these things, how the words you use within the conversations, and so on and so forth. So I think it's massively important to actually take some time to evaluate your surroundings. Do you know what I mean? Are the people around you actually good for you? You know what I mean? Are they good? As much as you think they're great mates, and as much as you've got a great history and you've known that person for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, do you know what I mean? Are they actually good for you in respect to where you want to get to? Do you get what I mean? Are they going to contribute towards helping you achieve the vision that you want for yourself? Do you know what I mean? And also take some accountability yourself. Are you actually taking things seriously? And I think that's the biggest thing, you know what I mean? That's self-evaluation, really.
So true, my friend, and so powerful, because like you become what you both consciously and unconsciously consistently consume, whether it's friends, the environment around you. Like you say, if you've got a messy environment, you're going to have a messy mind. If you've got negative friends, it's going to breed negativity, because negativity breeds negativity, but it's the same for positivity. So that's why it's so super important to be aware of your environments to begin with, and then make necessary changes. And you sort of mentioned a question there is a really good question to ask yourself. Like, a good question, I think, is anyone could ask is like, is this environment or this friendship or these people, are they supporting my growth and helping me get to where I want to go, or are they sort of holding me back? Because people are just like either like vacuums or like chargers, and the vacuums will literally suck the energy and the drive out of you, in return causing you to be held back. But the chargers, on the other hand, are going to help boost you up to that next level of life. And we all get to decide, like, do we want to have, say, expanded association with certain individuals? Do we want to have limited association with individuals? Like, I believe with the chargers, say the boosters in your life, have expanded association. But then with the energy vampires, those vacuums, have limited association. But if they are that much of a drainer and they're bringing you down in life every single day, you need to really think about having disassociation. So, Marv, let's just talk about now then the power of friendship, if you don't mind. Like, obviously, when we all grow up, we level up in certain areas of our lives. And you mentioned there, like, just because some people have been, say, friends since school, or you hang around with them your whole life when you was younger, it doesn't mean that they need to come with you on your own journey. Because I honestly believe, like, if they can't grow with you, then they can't go with you. Like, there's people that I've had to sort of just hold back and be like, look, you're not on this same journey as me. And sadly, like, you can't come. Like, if you can't meet my standards, you can't come. It doesn't mean I've got anything bad to say about that person at all. But you just level up in your life, because if you don't choose to say break free, I mentioned it before, like, it's like those crabs in a bucket, and they're always going to pull you back to the comfort or the safety of their little area or their zone there, because they've only got to a certain level. So do you want to talk to me about some of, say, relationships growing up to get you up and out of where you once were?
Like, this is where I need to be careful. I don't know who's listening. It's funny. No, I've got so many stories. Obviously, look, when you grow up in a certain area and you come from a certain place, and I think you've always got, you're around unsavory characters, but ultimately, you when you're growing up, these people are your friends. Do you know what I mean? But I remember there's a saying, grass and trees start from the same place. Do you know what I mean? But they don't necessarily end up in the same space. So it's kind of like, you have to decide going back to your point, whether or not you are going to just keep going and going and pushing and evolving in order to get to that vision that's what you want for yourself, or are you going to actually allow other people to hold you back? And I think I've had many decisions that have happened in the over time where I've just had to sort of like, not in a horrible way. And I know people struggle to do this. I think I've got better at it, so I don't really struggle to do it anymore, because I think when you understand, and this is why I say the vision is so important, because when you understand what you want for yourself, when you understand what you're running towards, all of a sudden you start, you understand your non-negotiables. Do you get what I mean? You understand your boundaries are fixed and they're firmly in place and they are not moving for anything. So all of a sudden, that friend who is getting involved in stuff that maybe you shouldn't, you don't want to have around you because you've moved on. Do you know what I mean? You're more than happy to just cut them off and just, and not really continue to reach out to them in the same way that you would. I mean, you have opportunities that are open to you when you continue to evolve. Do you know what I mean? I've worked with some incredible companies and had like sort of VIP passes, so backstage passes at festivals and things like that, and being backstage with people like Khalees and so on and so forth. And in some situations, I've brought people with me who've put me in a bad situation. Do you get what I mean? But I haven't been aware of even what they're doing. I've driven like maybe 2 hours to get to a destination, and been around thousands of people, then been backstage, and not all this time, the person I'm with is doing stuff that could have actually put me in a serious predicament, not just with the police, but also with the people that has taken me a long time to actually forge the relationship with, or you know what I mean? So all of a sudden, and I'm saying this because I know there's people out there who really struggle to leave relationships behind, or really struggle to accept their own evolution. Do you get what I mean? Because these people you'll have memories with these individuals. Do you get what I mean? In some cases, you may have relationships with these individuals, but you need to really understand where it is that you want to end up in terms of your own vision, and whether or not it's worth sacrificing that vision to stay in the same position just because the people around you don't want to evolve, or the people that you're with that don't want to evolve. Because everything happens sort of for a season, I think. And sometimes relationships that you have with people, friends that you have around, the circle you have at that specific time is for that specific time. It's not necessarily for your future,
Again, it's so true what you mentioned there. And like at the end, a quote comes to my mind, like people are either in your life for a reason or for a season. And just because they were, say, in your life at this point and they contributed, or something happened where, you're good friends, but then sometimes you move on, and it doesn't mean that you need to take them with you at all times. And I think a lot of people do find it very, very difficult. But I love what you said, Marv, about if you've got your own vision, your own goal in your own mind, then it makes it that much easier to say no, set your own boundaries, and then do more of what's going to move you closer towards that vision, towards that goal. Because I believe when you don't have a vision or a purpose in your life, that's when you find yourself ultimately lowering your standards and potentially doing things that don't align with your true values. So I just want to talk now then about, say, goal setting. Like, what's your views?
Before you go on to goal setting, I love the word you use there as well, standards.
Yeah,
because
okay.
I think important thing to pull out of the conversation, because a lot of people don't even necessarily recognize or know where their standards are, or they at times lower their standards when they shouldn't. Do you get what I mean? Those standards there needs to be some consistency there, in order to, because when you've got consistency, then you can get consistent results. Do you know what I mean? And consistent outcomes. So I just wanted to pick that out because I think it's an important word.
Man, it's so true. And like I hold my hands up. Like I've lowered my standards many times in life. Like I've set my standards here, and for whatever reasons, I've dropped from my standards. But I'm always consciously aware, and because look, everyone's not perfect. No one's perfect, and you shouldn't even try to be perfect. But you need to be aware. You need to have that awareness, because awareness gives you choices, and choices gives you freedom. So you need to be aware of your actions, of everything that you do on a daily basis, because when you're not aware of what you're doing, like I say, like, how can you improve something that you don't know needs improving? Like, even going back, Marv, to your story all those years ago, like, yeah, you might have grown up in shit area, but that's all you knew. Like, same with me.
Mhm.
The area where I grew up as a kid, it wasn't the greatest, but it wasn't really bad, but the surroundings were quite negative sometimes. But just because that's all you've done, that's all you know sometimes. So it takes, say, like you mentioned, stepping outside of the jar, looking back to read what's on that label.
Mm.
So I believe awareness is the key, or the starting point to change anything. So yeah, let's talk about goal setting, my friend. What's your thoughts on goal setting for anyone listening now that doesn't have, say, a vision, doesn't have a goal, doesn't have a compelling future for themselves? What are some of the tips and tricks you could give someone to be able to, say, get clarity, get a vision, get something to wake up and work towards on a daily basis?
I mean, I talk about this all the time. So anyone who's heard me sort of speak, or in workshops or on Clubhouse or whatever, I speak about roadmaps all the time. I think it's massively important to understand where you're going. I mean, if you haven't got a plan, then ultimately what you're doing is drifting through life. And I know some people will be comfortable doing that. There'll be some people that'll be like, oh yeah, just go where the wind goes. I think as long as you're making the decision that that's who you are, do you know what I mean? Fine. But I think if you want to achieve anything out of life, if you really want to actually, if you have a bit of a vision, or you make 110% clear, first and foremost, clarity around that vision, understand what it is you actually want, and then formulate a plan of action to actually get there. Structure a roadmap, put a roadmap in place, understand what those milestones are within the roadmap. And that's another thing that I think people struggle with, identifying the milestones in order to get there. Because look, sometimes you don't know, but the first thing you need to do is be honest and open with yourself, rather than lying to yourself and being like, yeah, I'll figure it out, I'll work it out. You know what I mean? Be honest with yourself. If you don't know, figure out who you need to connect with in order to put that milestone in place in order to get there, or figure out who you need in order to build out, the road, so on and so forth. There's also something I speak about called backcasting, where sometimes you can work backwards. Some people find it easier to do that. Do you know what I mean? And actually, start with what you believe is amazing, and what the final destination for yourself, and then say, right, okay, well, taking a couple of steps back, what do I need to have in place, and keep coming back and back and back until to the position that you are right now, and then look at everything that you've mapped out, and then figure out a strategy to get to the first milestone. And I think that's really what I think many people don't do when it comes down to the strategy. There's very few people actually enjoy that. I love it because it's what I do, and I think I've recognized that about myself now, which makes what I do even more enjoyable. Do you know what I mean? Because I've managed to, again, going back to what we spoke about before, cultivate a career, or a company, or do you know what I mean? I don't. It doesn't even feel like work to me. I enjoy what I do so much; it doesn't feel like work. So, which is exactly what the majority of people would want for themselves. So I love it. But I think for those people that don't enjoy it, you need to sort of figure out the vision first. Start with the vision. Going back to your question, okay, how do you start? How do you actually goal set? How do you figure out the goal? Start with the biggest audacious goal that you can actually think about, the big vision, and then work backwards from there. If you're struggling with goal setting in general, then try working backwards and try to figure out, okay, well, that is what amazing looks like to me. What does the journey to getting there look like? Do you know what I mean? And how can I have the most fun possible on that journey? Do you get what I mean? Like, how can I actually enjoy that journey? Because no one wants to really like struggle and feel like it's the journey is so hard, because that's when you want to give up. Do you know what I mean? So how can you actually figure out how to have the best possible journey to get in there as you can, really? Bit of a long-winded answer.
No, really, really top tips there, my friend. And yeah, I honestly believe like the same as you. Like you need to begin with the end in mind, because when you know exactly where you're going, you know where you currently are. You just need to figure out the action steps in between, like the messy middle part. And it's always flexible. Like the journey is always flexible. But I love what you said about enjoying the journey, because so many people they do have a vision for themselves. They do have a big audacious goal in the future, but then they're struggling every single day. They're stressed out. They're dragging themselves through each day trying to achieve this goal, this vision. But sometimes I need to say to people, like, is that truly the goal that you want to achieve? Because it seems like you're not enjoying it, and the reward should be, and it is, the journey. It's never really the destination. It's about who you evolve into along the way. So,
And
yeah,
I'll throw in actually, if you are that person that sort of if it feels like a struggle, change your mindset to think about things as an investment. That's something I did a long time ago, because if you're selective with what you invest in, whether it's your time or whatever you're investing in, you'll make better choices, and you'll make better investments, rather than just thinking, oh, I've got to do this. And it's funny, I spend a lot of time in Breakfast with Champions on Clubhouse, and Glenn says this also. There's a couple of other people that say it as well. It's not that I have to do this, but I get to do this. So it's an opportunity that is in front of you, and you're investing your time in it. Because if you change your mindset to investing, then you're expecting a return on that investment. Do you know what I mean? If you change your mindset to investing, then you're expecting that return, then you're not going to waste anything. Do you know what I mean? Because you know that if you're spending on something, then you're not going to get a return on that, and that's kind of a waste rather than an investment. So it's changing that kind of mindset to, because I think when you're wasting time, it in a way it's kind of, well, this, I suppose it's a saying, is wasting time is worse than wasting money, right? So I think that's one of the things that I definitely changed early on. I look at things as investments. I'm investing time in a relationship. I'm investing time in my children. Do you know what I mean? I'm investing time in my business, expecting a return on that investment.
yeah, that's amazing to hear, and like you said about like time and money and stuff, like there's a quote that says, if time is money, then doing nothing is an expensive hobby. Um, so yeah, no, it's so true. Like if you're procrastinating and not taking action towards your dreams, or even if you're going after the wrong things, it's going to cost you, whether it's your time or it's your money or both. But I think time is priceless, right? Like you don't get the time back. Yeah, you can figure out a way of making money back, but spend your time doing the things that you want to do rather than doing the things that you feel like you have to do or you got to do. And like you were saying there about changing your language and changing your mindset, like I honestly believe like anyone can change their life for the better using just one letter, and change I got to do it to I get to do it. And that's when you can just change your life around, turn your life around, because you know that you get to do it. Because there's so many people out there that would love to be in your position, or would love to have the opportunity to say follow their dreams, or to create the life that they dream and desire. Um, so I want to talk about, just briefly before we come to an end, I want to talk about your opinions on the importance of, say, mentorship or coaching in order to, say, get towards your goals or to get a clear vision.
Oh, well, it goes back to I see Sai as well. Shout out to Sai. I, it goes back to what we were saying earlier. I think if you aren't following a specific roadmap, if you aren't following a specific plan, do you know what I mean? Then you are literally just drifting along through life. Do you know what I mean? And as I say that, I'm visualizing sort of like just a stick going down a stream. Do you know what I mean? Like in getting dragged this way, getting dragged that way, and if you've ever, anyone who's listening to this, if you've ever been in a situation where you haven't been in control and you're being pulled in that direction and you're being pulled in this direction and other people are dictating what you're doing, when you're doing it, it's not a nice feeling. Do you know what I mean? As a matter of fact, for me personally, it's a horrible feeling. Maybe I'm a bit of a control freak, but I hate the feeling of not being in control, not understanding what's going to be happening from one period to another. And I think, everybody should be trying to take that control back. And if you're taking that control back, it means that you understand the direction that you're going in. And you as an individual, going back to what I shared about self-awareness, only you know what you need help with. Only you know how much help you need. You get what I mean? And some people, as I said before, that lie to themselves and they think, no, yeah, I'm really, really good at this. I'm fine. I'm all right. I can do it all myself. Very, very rarely, can an individual do everything themselves. So I think going back to your question on mentorship or coaching, I think it's massively important once you've established what help you need. And because look, at the end of the day, you can waste time having the wrong coach. So you need to understand what you need help with, taking into consideration the direction that you want to go in, and then choose the right person. But definitely, I think, having a coach is massively helpful. And I'll say one thing before sort of kicking it back to you. I think one of the biggest things that I see with people who once they've made the decision to get a coach, which for some people is a very hard decision to make, for a number of reasons. Sometimes it's financial reasons, other times it's just, stubbornness. But once you've made the reason to actually work with someone, and you're confident that you've picked the right person, you've got to do the work. You've got to take the advice. You know what I mean? There's so often that people just either don't take action, and the money that they've spent is basically being wasted, and all of the information that they got from the individual just sits in a book, and there's no action taken. You've got to take that action, and you have to also open yourself up to listening to the advice, whether it's good criticism or not, just being open to it, But again, I think sometimes people should take more time to choose wisely, because I think if you choose wisely and you're 110% confident that you've got the right person, I think that's when you open yourself up a bit more, and you will listen, and you will take action, and you will take the advice. I think it's when people start to second guess themselves a little bit, because maybe they haven't done enough due diligence, that they don't take a book, but definitely have to take action. Otherwise, it's just a waste of waste of time and waste of money.
So true, man. So true. Like, your dreams don't work unless you do. So it's important to put in that, say, uncomfortable action to actually go after what you want.
Yeah.
So as we come to an end, my friend, I just want to say there's 5 quick questions that I like to ask everyone at the end of these Instagram lives. Quick fire, don't think too much, and we just go. Are you happy to go, Marv?
Yeah, I was all right until you said that you're happy to go. Now I'm feeling...
Okay.
I'm feeling okay. What was, I was fine at first. Now you want to...
Okay, right. So question number 1. What is the best piece of advice that you have ever received, and why?
I think it's funny because when I look at the people I was around when I was younger and the people that I'm around now, the people that I'm around now are way more successful. They have a lot more knowledge. But some of the best bits of advice I received when I was younger, but I just didn't understand. Do you get what I mean? Like, my grandmother was a huge influence. My mom as well. Like, they'd say things like, pride comes before a fall. Do you know what I mean? Or those that don't listen will feel, and all of those things, like one-liners that I'm sure like lots of people will remember from their childhood. But it just went over my head when I was younger. Do you get what I mean? And then as I get older, those things are still stuck in my brain, sort of ingrained into my mind. I go through scenarios and I'm thinking, yeah, pride comes before a fall. Do you know what I mean? How much do I really want to sort of, really look good, or do I want to swallow my pride and just, do you know what I mean? Like all of these sort of little lessons and one-liners have just come back again. So I think some of the earliest advice that I didn't understand at the time, that I do now understand, that's some of the best advice, I think.
Yeah, man, I love that. And, it connects with me so much because like my granddad, he meant the world to me. I got a tattoo there
Yeah,
on there, granddad, so he's close to my heart. And he used to say his one-liner was always look after number one. And
yeah,
I say, yeah, every day I see him twice a day.
yeah.
I say, yeah, granddad, yeah, of course, of course. Like I didn't know what that meant really. I just used to say, yeah. But
Flies
it
up.
come to when I was 25, 26, when I went through that relationship breakup and all that. That's when I thought, fuck, I haven't been taking that advice. I haven't been looking after number one for years. And
Yeah,
it took all those years to actually figure out what it truly meant. So it's super important to listen to those, say, little one-liners and those little nuggets from when we're growing up, from a younger age. So no, I absolutely love that, my friend.
yeah, definitely.
So, okay, number two is, what is the worst piece of advice that you have ever received and acted on, and what was the result?
Wow. The worst piece of advice. I'm not too sure what the worst piece of advice is. I think going back to your point, not putting yourself first. Do you know what I mean? Like, we can spend, and I'm using the word spend intentionally, we can spend so much time um, on other people, trying to help everyone else but ourselves. In relationships where you're sacrificing, where you're bending, and so on and so forth, and our boundaries are drifting all over the place, as if you imagine like sort of like floats at sea or something. Nothing is stable. I feel like that's when you're most vulnerable, really. Do you know what I mean? When you aren't putting yourself first, because you just don't know what the outcome's going to be. And I think not necessarily that it was the worst bit of advice, but I think in the past I've probably wasted a lot of time. I'd definitely be way further ahead in life, and from a financial standpoint, if I put myself first more often. I think so. I think that's probably the worst advice that you could listen to. Do you know what I mean? Oh, don't worry about don't yourself. Just put yourself. And it's difficult, really, because all the sort of stories about others who have sacrificed so much, and then that's what they're famous for doing. Um, it's funny. It's a bit of a catch-22 situation, but I think for me, definitely, you got to put yourself first. To your point, do you know what I mean? Definitely. What is it they say?
Yeah.
Pour from the saucer, not the cup, or something along those lines.
Exactly that. Like you can't give what you don't have, and you can't pour from an empty cup. Like you have to put yourself first, because if you don't, no one else is gonna.
Yeah,
um. So right, number three. I honestly believe like a big part of life is about, say, learning new things, advancing, growing, improving your mindset. Yeah, learning, but also a big part of life. I've recently found out in the recent years, it's like a huge part of life life is about unlearning a lot of the things, especially say childhood programming. When we're growing up, say as those young children, young teenagers, etc., we get a lot of stuff imprinted into our minds and into our brains that we end up taking as gospel. So, what was maybe one of the main things that you had to unlearn whilst growing up through your life to get you to where you are now?
That's a really, really good question, actually. Uh, I've spoken about this at length, actually, in like various workshops and stuff, and I think there's a cultural aspect to it as well. Do you know what I mean? Because I think you know, what our grandparents endured, or even our parents endured, or even our great grandparents, you know, they whatever they're teaching or whatever they're showing us as children is based on their experiences. And I think the thing that we can do sometimes is take all of those experiences and all of those learnings, and then just use that, strap it on our back as a backpack, and just can continue through life. And I feel like if we do that, not only are we carrying unnecessary baggage, but also we're going to be, making decisions that aren't necessarily right for us and aren't necessarily going to serve us in our journey in terms of where we want to get to, or the vision that we have in our minds. And I think it's massively important to actually take some of that stuff out of that backpack that we don't actually need, that isn't relevant to us, that was relevant to our parents or our grandparents in the time that they were. I mean, look, there's no internet or anything at that time. You know, AI is a big buzzword now, and was, non-existent back then, pretty much. And I think it's important to understand, and to your point, unlearn. And I almost think of it as sort of tapestry, and unpicking the things that have been woven into us, because they have been woven into us, do you know what I mean, over a very, very, very long time. And they're not all bad, but there's definitely a lot of stuff in there that we don't need, that isn't relevant for us. So I think I couldn't even pick one thing. There's so much stuff. Like entrepreneurship wasn't even discussed, wasn't even an option. When I was growing up with my parents, it was like, you get a job, you get your education, go to university, get a good job, get a good career, buy a house, get married. It was just, that is the blueprint that everybody is following. There's no discussion about entrepreneurship, social media, or anything of those things. So I think, again, going back to understanding enough about yourself, and understanding enough about the vision that you want for yourself, and then figure out, okay, what are those lessons from my past, or from what passed down to me from my parents or from my grandparents, which of those lessons or which of those tools are going to actually benefit me moving forward? Which ones do I actually need? Which ones do I think are useful to me? Because there's a lot that that definitely is unneeded. You just got to leave it behind, and it's difficult because some of those things are attached to memories as well.
Man, it's so important. And I love what you said, about it's like having a backpack. Like if you've got all of those beliefs and ways of doing things, like other people have taught you, that's how you should do things. That's how you should live life. Like it's all in this backpack, and it's going to be so heavy, and you're going to be dragging it through your life. Like, oh, it's going to be draining. So you need to start unloading. Yeah, it doesn't mean that you need to get rid of all of them, but look at the ones that are going to help contribute to you getting to where you want to go. Keep them ones, and maybe unload some of those other ones to make your journey that much easier. But then also, you said, but no, sorry, about like the awareness. It's all about having the awareness, because again, like you can't change something that you don't know needs changing, or you can't improve something that you don't know needs improving.
It's a good point, because I think and that's when we slip into autopilot. Like I always like to say, you're either in the passenger seat or the driver's seat, and I think many of us find it much easier in life to just sit in the passenger seat. Do you get what I mean? the end of the day, if you're in the passenger seat, you've got no control over the destination or where you end up. And you know, if we're just using or everything that we've been taught, that's basically from the past, you know, which was a totally different time to now. You know, it's you're not necessarily going to get the best outcome, because at the end of the day, a lot of that stuff isn't fit for purpose. You know, so I think it's a really, really good. It's a great question, to be honest, and I think it's a you could have a discussion about that all by itself.
That's a podcast on its own, right? That's a whole podcast episode there, I think. Right, next one, my friend. Let's go. So, what is the greatest lesson that you learned from your most painful life experience?
Hmm. I think we've probably touched on two of them, to be honest. Putting yourself first is a big one. You know, I've wasted time. I've wasted times in relationships when I haven't put myself first and just kept moving, even when I've known that, okay, maybe I should just sort of knock this on the head and just not move forward. So putting yourself first was one, and not necessarily using everything that you're taught uh, um, as gospel and moving forward by your parents, grandparents, and so on and so forth, because they're doing the best they can based on the knowledge that they had at that time. So those two things, I think, I would say definitely what I'd pull out, really, both of which we've kind of mentioned already.
Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. So, last one. Knowing what you know now, what say one piece of advice would you give to your younger self?
Hmm. Man, I don't think there's that much I'd change, but I definitely would give myself those two bits of advice that we touched on. I would definitely put myself first more. I think it's so easy just to be caring about everyone and trying to save everybody, and damaging yourself in the process. But yeah, it's thinking outside the box and understanding that there are lots of different ways to do things, um, and really focusing on that vision, really focusing on that, you know, really focusing on that vision, which I did do a lot of when I look back, but I think I could have done it more. I think I tried to. I could have gone through the process of deciphering some of that information. You know, going back to what we spoke about. You know, some of the stuff is not fit for purpose. Some of it is. You know, I probably carried that backpack longer than I needed to. Do you know what I mean? Which really did slow me down. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, that would be the advice I'd give myself. Those two things.
Fantastic, my friend. Top tips here today, and I'd like to end it now on one last bonus question that
Oh,
I've sort of added to the mix.
okay.
The last bonus question is: what is the best thing about being you? Like, what's the best thing about being Marvin?
Be me.
Yeah,
Wow,
what's the best thing about being you?
man. These are some good questions. I might have to nick these for when. um, Best thing about being me too. I don't know. I love my life. I love the time that I have. I enjoy what I do. I think that's the best thing about being me. I just enjoy. I honestly do feel, and I don't want to use the word lucky, because it's been orchestrated, it's been planned, it's been a journey to actually get to this point. But I love the fact that I really do enjoy what I do. I love the fact that I get to speak to and work with some incredible individuals, incredible entrepreneurs, business owners, outside of work, and you know, I enjoy, again, investing in the relationships with people that I've connected with, I'm looking forward to meeting more amazing individuals. Do you know what I mean? Along the way, because I think, going back to what I shared about the roadmap, you know, I definitely have a vision of where I want to get to, and yeah, I really love meeting new people with amazing ideas.
Fantastic, my friend. Thank you so much for sharing your time here today and sharing, again, loads of words of wisdom and little tips people can take away today. So thank you so much. So
It's
I
gone
just want to end it
quick.
on.
This is the longest live I've ever done, by the way.
Honestly, no, it's been brilliant. It's been really, really good. And I'm sure people that have either watched it or who will watch it back, they're going to take so much away from this. So what I want to ask you now is how can, say, people follow you, follow your journey, learn more about you? What's the best way for people to connect with you and what you do, my friend?
Yeah, sure. So you can connect with me here on Instagram. What DM me? As you can see my connection here, Volume 2 Official. You can connect with me via LinkedIn as well. Those are the two ways really that I normally sort of connect with people, or just check out the website and connect me via the website volume2.co.uk.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, my friend. And it's been an absolute pleasure. And again, thank you for being here. It's been a great live. I really enjoyed it.
No,
And we're going to speak soon.
fantastic to speak to you as well. You had to wear that shirt as well. I'm telling you, you're rubbing it in my face. Basically, you're rubbing
It's because the sun's out, man. I've got to wear this, sit in
it
the sun.
all we're getting here in the UK is just rain on and off. Every time we think it's going to be sunny, it rains again. So you're doing this on purpose. I know you are. Personally, don't worry.
Come to Brazil. Come to Brazil, baby. Everybody, thank you so much for being here today. And I look forward to catching you on the next live, people. Thank you,
All right.
everybody. Bye bye.
Speak to you.
Bye bye.
Take care. See you later.